So let's jump into yet again another Transformers Slag Patreon listener question. Once again, if you want to be part of the Transformers Slag podcast Patreon, let us know we're doing a good job on this crazy Transformer podcast, giving you the daily news every day and some insight into our hobby. Come join the Patreon, patreon.com/protoman. Links also in the description below and in the pinned comment if you like. What do you get if you join the Patreon? Get your name in the end credit scroll at the end of every segment. Have your name there, letting you know that, hey, you like what we do, even though it might not be that great. Get access to the awesome Transformers Slag Patreon Discord. Our Discord has an amazing chat, a lot of news breaks there. We also have the cool deals section where we post all kinds of deals and stuff that are happening around the world, get to know how you could save some money in this hobby. And the rare lore section where we post all kinds of rare translated Japanese stuff and cool stuff from around the world of Transformers lore and fiction. Depending on what tier you're at, you might even get a little bit of a gift in the snail mail. I always send out stuff every couple of months to my patrons at a certain tier to let them know, hey, thank you for all the crazy stuff you do. And of course, what we're here today for, the Patreon listener question. And once again, we have a Patreon listener question from Zero. And I'd just like to take this moment. Right now because Zero is part of my old school crew of patrons. Also, shout out to Thomas and Ian and David. They were the patrons, the famous Fab Four of the original Transformers Slag podcast patronage from the beginning. So I just want to take a special time to thank Zero and the crew for the patronage all these years. Let's get to Zero's question because it's actually a really good one, and I like these kind of questions because it gives us a moment to kind of self-reflect in the hobby and study, how we do our collecting and stuff like that. And he asks, question, I know you don't keep most of your boxes, but do you keep instructions? If so, how do you store them? I've tried a few methods, but they always end up being too much work and too unorganized. Just curious what your methods are. So I just want to also kind of attack the first part of Zero's question. So yeah, I don't keep a lot of Transformer boxes. I kind of went through this thing for many years where I used to just keep every piece of packaging, and that went on for quite a while. I'm talking I think I really started to focus keeping packaging around the time of G2 Beast Wars, and just kept everything, every card back, every box, everything, every instruction, which I'll get into in a moment afterwards. And it didn't really hit me to go oh man, you know what, this stuff is crazy. And to maybe, I'd have to say around 2011, 2012, when I finally moved, got my own place, and started opening a wealth of Generation 1 and Generation 2 product that I had and when I say Generation 1, I mean not mint in box sealed rare stuff, but merchandise things. And I was just kind of going do I keep the packaging? And I got to this point where I was just okay, if it's come out after the year 2007, unless it's a super rare item, a Japanese item, or a masterpiece, that cardboard is going back to the earth. And I remember when I started opening all the Revenge of the Fallen and Dark of the Moon stuff, which I just had a swath of, I literally, and I'm going to try to find this photo and post it in the image below, but I filled up an entire giant recycling bin from top to bottom in Cardbacks and in bubble, the plastic bubble covers on Cardbacks. It was nuts. And when I just stepped back and looked at it, I went, man, that's a lot of crap. So I don't keep packaging because it takes a lot of space. It doesn't really have much of a secondary market value, most of it, unless it's vintage stuff. My logic is pre-2000 kind of has a value. Post-2000, it really depends. And of course, I keep, again, Japanese, masterpiece, that kind of stuff I'll keep. Obviously, lucky draws. It has to be a certain rarity, where losing the box would be, a value deterrent. But in general, they aren't worth money. And a really good example of it was, I think it was 2 or 3 TF cons ago, Transformerland had a huge booth at TF Con, and they just had these 2 gigantic boxes in front of their booth of just cardbacks from Armada upward. And it was just free, take it. they didn't want it. They obviously kept them. They thought there would be a value probably, and then they realized they just take more space than they're worth. And I remember just like going through them and taking some of the key Armada ones to give to Aaron Archer so he could have more like signing material, I guess we could put it. You know, like, oh, hey, here's a card back of, you know, Laserbeak or something. We could sign these and give these to fans and stuff. So otherwise, like, no one cared about that stuff. And even Transformerland, that's a big Transformer store, they saw no value in card backs after the year like 2001, 2002. So that's the first part. So that's the main reason why I don't keep boxes. Let's talk about instructions, though. He says here, so do I keep them and how do I store them? I have an interesting system of how I do that. So whenever we have a line, like to give an example, let's just say Combiner Wars, right? Sooner or later, I'm going to get a big figure from that line, whether it be a leader class or, you know, a box set of something. When I get that big box, let's say leader class is the more common one, I'll take out the insert of that big box. So like, let's say it's Combiner Wars. I think it was like the Megatron made its debut on that one. That was the one that had the Autobot sticker on it, that you could put the Autobot sticker on it, excuse me. I literally just took out the cardboard insert, toss that, recycle that, and then I use that giant box that says Combiner Wars on it, and I'll put every single Combiner Wars related instruction in it. So it's kind of like a nice big box. It's going to protect the item, and in an indirect way, it's kind of telling me also what are the instructions related inside this box. And I literally throw every single instruction in there, everything I get, and I continue that process. Like I have, like, if anyone remembers back in 2007, and I started that process back in 2007 when I got that humongous, I think, what was it called there? The Ultimate Bumblebee, the one that was like, you know, it talks, it moves, it reacts to you, it transforms. So when I got that huge Bumblebee, because there was just so many movie product from 2007, 2008, I just, again, took out the insert, filled it with every single instruction from the Transformer movie of that era, and just continued doing that process. Big figure, you know, like a Devastator, Revenge of the Fallen 2009, do the same thing, and I continue onward. That's usually how I get it. And, you know, and that's how I sort my instructions, and that's how I keep them. I don't even know really why I keep instructions, because, you know, there's a lot of really good resources online, and I don't really use instructions with Transformers. I think I've maybe... man, like, unless it was like Revenge of the Fallen, you know, Optimus Prime Jetfire doing that wing combiner, and I just couldn't find the instructions at the time. It's very rare that I need to refer to something. I just kind of wing it. I think that's part of the fun for me. But even then, it's something where it's like, oh, how do I transform this? I'm going to check a YouTube video, or I'm going to just go on to one of the many different websites that have scans of the instructions online, as opposed to just digging through them. So sometimes I even question why I keep the instructions. Definitely not for a value thing, because I have no intention of ever reselling my own personal collection Transformers. That's something, that's a bridge I'll probably cross in maybe 50 years, but that's a whole other discussion. But the point is that that's probably the easiest way that I do it, and it takes the least amount of space. And I have like this nice little crawl space next to my Transformer room, because my Transformer room is in a basement. So I have this nice little crawl space that I literally have like everything from 84 to like today, just perfectly sorted by that little crazy system that I do. And I find that by using a box in correspondence to whatever that line is, it really helps. Now, granted, some lines are really small, so you don't need like a leader class correspondent. I think a lot of them, sometimes I feel I could have just used a Voyager box, or even like if there was an Ultra class. But that's usually the easiest way. You go, oh, I need this instruction from this Transformers Cybertron 2006 character. I go to the crawl space. Oh, there's a, you know, leader class Cybertron Galvatron box that has every instruction in it, and you can just tell by the look at it from the side. You don't even need to have these things labeled. You just know. And that kind of makes it the easiest way to sort it, pretty much. But in terms of like when so many people have donated packaging to me, or instructions, or they don't want their instructions or packaging anymore, and sometimes I do take them because they're like high tier. Like I have an extra Primus box from the Japanese version of Primus, just because I'm like, who would want to throw this out? This thing is gorgeous. And I don't know if it's hoarding, but it's just like, to me, I'm just like, one day I'm just going to get like an extra Primus figure, and I'll just, sell that Primus figure and go, hey, do you want this sexy, Primus box with it? It kind of greases the wheels in a lot of ways. But otherwise, like, no, I don't bother with most packaging, just because I always feel Transformer toys take space as already they do, being the Transformer toys out of the packaging. Keeping the packaging just doubles up that space, if not more. Like a leader class toy takes space. Imagine keeping a leader class box on top of that. What a waste of space. And when you're in this hobby and you buy as much as I do, space is a premium. You want to have that space. And I always, and I don't want to sound like an environmentalist, but at the end of the day, most of that packaging doesn't have value. You might as well recycle it and return it back to the earth so it could be used as something else. So it's kind of better that way in a lot of ways, instead of just hoarding it on the hope that one day, maybe 15 years from now, you're going to sell that, that leader class Cybertron Megatron. And because it has the box, that's going to grease the wheels. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe there's like for every like 5% of Transformer fans that really care about that have it mint with the box. There's a lot more that rather just have it loose, complete, easy to ship, cheaper to ship, easier to transport. I mean, go to TFCon in any dealer room, go past the garbage, any garbage, and it is filled to the top that it's spewing out Transformer packaging, because people travel to the show, they get their Transformers, and they just rip it out of the packaging and throw out the package because it's not going to fit in their suitcase. It's not worth it. And you'd be so surprised just how much gets thrown out because people just don't care. And I don't blame them. When you're selling product, it's cheaper to ship it without the package. When you're buying product at a con, it's cheaper. It's not cheaper, but it's more convenient to just pack it in your suitcase without the package. It's just the way to go. Anyways, I hope that answers your question, Zero. But yeah, I keep it all the instructions. That's kind of my system. And the boxes thing, I know that wasn't your main question, but I figured I'd address it also because I figured it's kind of connected. It's paper. It's extra paper that comes with our plastic robots or our die-cast robots that we always have to think about, and it takes space in an already limited space hobby of giant robots. But again, thanks for this question. Really good one. Always leads to a good discussion. And again, thanks to all my patrons who've been supporting me all these years. And once again, if you want to join the Patreon and be like these cool guys that have joined us all these years, again, patreon.com/Protoman. The link is in the description and in the pinned comment, and you could let me know that this podcast isn't a waste of your time, and you might actually be learning something.